Okay, so it looks like everyone is good to go. We'll start our rollout session today. And I do have a list of exercises that I'd like to get us through. So I will try to stick to a bit of time with each exercise that we progress through. That being said, as always, with anything that I do, especially with recovery, if something feels good and you're not ready to move on when I say move on, you can stay, you can hold it, you can keep working through it. Okay, so let's start. And how we're going to start today is actually in a kneeling position. So you can come straight on. I'm actually going to turn to the side just so that you can see me a little bit better. So make sure you're comfortable in the room and that you're comfortable with where you can see me. How we're going to go through our kneeling stretching is working a little bit through our arms. We don't often roll out the forearms or the arm itself. We usually focus on the muscles surrounding the larger joint. So we're going to kind of ease into it today. And what I'll ask you to do is just take an arm, any arm, and start kind of rolling just forward and back from below the wrist to below the elbow. So we're not rolling on the wrist or the elbow. We're just going kind of back and forth on the forearm. And I've got my hand so it's facing in. As you keep going through, you can kind of turn your hand a little bit and notice if you're feeling anything. I'll just do this a little bit, and this really helps get the blood flowing too. Now we've done that one side. I'll ask you just to switch and do the other. Again, this is just really nice for getting the blood flowing through that forearm. You can go from below the elbow to just above the wrist line or below the wrist, however you think of it. And we're just rocking a little bit back and forth, and you can kind of change your hand position to notice if there's anything that's sensitive. Depending on what you've been getting up to this week, you may feel more or less. Good, and then we're going to switch arms again, but this time I want you to place above the elbow. So now your lower arm is off of it, and you're going to focus on the upper arm. And I've got my palm raised up to the ceiling, if you can see that. Turn a little bit. And I'm focusing more on my tricep, which for me is feeling quite sensitive today. So I'm going to back off of how much pressure or how hard I'm pushing on the roller. And again, you can kind of play with the position of your arm, roll it out, roll it in, so you can get a little bit more. And then we'll switch arms. And I'm still just kneeling. Hopefully kneeling is comfortable for you today. If it's not, you could do this laying on your stomach. It might just be a little bit awkward. And for anyone who doesn't have a roller, who's working with a massage ball or a lacrosse ball today, you can absolutely do this all against a wall standing. That has greater control. If you're on the ground laying on the ball, it might be a little bit too much pressure, but you can try both ways. All right, so finishing off the tricep on this arm. Good. Before we move on, we're actually just going to stretch that out. So let's take your right arm and scoop it across. Keep your shoulder down. And then take that right arm. Now it's going to come up overhead and bend the elbow into tricep. Do me a favor and make sure that the chin stays lifted off of the chest. Always working with good posture. Amazing. Okay, arms out. Let's take the left arm across, scoop it. Same thing, keep that shoulder down. We'll hold this just for a little while, stretching through that left shoulder. Good. Bring the arm up. Tricep. So I'm not ever pulling on my shoulder, right? I'm not yanking it. I'm not tucking my chin. Always really good posture. Think about where you want your arm and your shoulder to be, and that's where you want to stretch it through. And then release that. Good. We're going to keep working in this position, kind of facing down to our roller, but now we'll get into more of what I call our spider monkey position as we set up for lats. So I'm just trying to, I'm getting myself ready for it. So we'll get our left arm, and this is kind of the position you want. you've exposed it, and we're gonna roll down the side of our body. Now, I'm choosing to stay on my knees just for a second because I wanna kind of test the water, so to speak. I wanna see how much pressure I'm able to put in through that armpit kind of area, working through some of the rotator cuff muscles and then down into the lats. I think I'm okay to get off of the knees. The knees are a very nice controlling spot. But now I'm going to switch a little bit more onto my side, and I'll come down and do more of my lats here. Now, you might need to come onto your toe, you might need to come onto your knee. It's very much exploratory, as I've mentioned before with our rollout, when you come into your lats. And for me, I think I found my sweet spot right away, and it's definitely more up through the rotator cuff underneath my armpit. Yours might be more through your side. So I want you just to play with how much pressure you can put on it, if you're able to roll it, or if you need to hold it and breathe. So sometimes the best thing to do, honestly, is just to hold that sweet spot, allow your body to kind of melt and relax into the roller, and then take a couple big breaths. If you're finding that the actual rolling is too much today, it's okay to hold it, relax, take a couple breaths, and then readjust and do it again. We'll do just a few more breaths on this arm. Good. All right, and slowly we'll come off of that one and we'll do the other side. So again, I'm gonna start very kind of cautiously. I'll stay on my knees as I address the roller, kind of from an angled point here, and just gently roll through those shoulder muscles down in towards my lats, getting an idea of where I need my arm position to target the muscles, right? Sometimes those muscles are sneaky and they try to hide from the massage. So we have to change our body position a little bit. And then once you figure that out, you might be able to come into more of a spider monkey approach, laying down on your leg or your knees or your toes. And then you can start rolling through those muscles on the side. Again, you may find a sweet spot. Try to just relax into that and take a couple of breaths. And then you can keep moving. And for anyone thinking, no, this is really easy, I don't feel very much, that's okay. Keep rolling through it, keep practicing. It's okay not to have a whole bunch of sweet spots. And we'll do a few more breaths. Good, finishing off. Careful as we get up. And we'll do a child's pose over the roller. So just let your arms come onto the roller and then sit back. Nice big stretch through those shoulders and lats. And then we'll slowly work ourselves up. And we'll take just a little bit of a stretch here for the side. You can sit onto one hip with your legs tucked to the side. We'll do a mermaid stretch, opening up through the lats as we lean in towards those feet. Really try to sit your hip down and open up through the shoulder, keeping your body facing forward. It's a great way to, now that we've really worked through the muscles around the shoulder, now we're really lengthening. All right, and then we'll come up and we'll do the other side. Again, really try to push the hip down, square the body. That feels oh so amazing. Come on up. Okay, we'll do one more thing facing the roller. This is going to be the hip flexor. So the hip flexor is the muscle that crosses the thigh into the belly. So it crosses the hip and it helps your knee come up and down. It's kind of awkward to get into. Some of you might need to use your ball. Some of you will use your roller. We'll definitely lay over top of the roller so you can see that it's kind of underneath my stomach right now. From a table position, you might need to spider monkey yourself a bit so you can lay one hip. So we'll do one hip at a time. Try to bring the crease of the hip right on top of the roller. And then I'm going to come down onto my elbows like a forearm plank. So I've got my left hip on the roller, and I'm going to use my right foot or your knee if you'd prefer, kind of as your rocker. So it's going to be where your movement comes from. So I'm focusing just on my left hip. And now, as I mentioned with your triceps and the arm earlier, you're going to need to play with, are you rolling to the outside? Are you rolling to the inside? Or are you staying in the middle? For me right now, I'm definitely more outside. You can play with coming into the middle or coming through. The inside's a little bit harder unless you have a ball, and then it's a little bit easier to target. So we'll do a few more times. Again, if you have a sweet spot, every now and then you can just hold it, try to relax your body, take a couple of breaths, and then keep moving. We'll do just a couple more breaths on this hip. All right, and we can take our time and switch over to the other side. You might need to adjust your roller, find that position over top of the roller, and then lean your other hip. So for me now, it's my right hip, right on the crease, so below the hip bone and above your thigh. You can come down onto your elbows if that helps. And with either that left knee or your toe, you can start kind of propelling yourself forward. Again, I don't feel very much when I'm going straight on in the middle. I usually need to turn just a little bit to the side to expose my hip flexors. And you can start rolling. And you can stay below the hip bone and focus more on the hip flexor as it descends down the thigh. Play with your body position. Again, if you ever hit a sweet spot where all of a sudden you think, instead of freezing in that fight or flight response, I want you just to kind of melt into it. Take a big deep breath. And then keep moving. We'll do a few more breaths. And as you keep rolling, you may discover new spots. So keep exploring. All right. And we can slowly come off of that. Now at this point, I'm actually going to get us, I'll just set my roller up to come into a runner's lunge or a hip flexor stretch again. So we'll take our right foot forward, but bring your hands down. Okay, and then you can either grab the foot with the same hand or the opposite hand if you're able to reach it. If you're not able to reach the foot today, or if it's just too much, that's okay. This is a really big thigh stretch, which helps open up through the hip flexor. And then we'll just switch legs whenever you're ready. Take your time. And again, this might be too much today for you. That's okay. Don't feel like you have to judge yourself and say, I don't know why I can't do it. Instead, just do what you can. Breathe into it. And then slowly release. And we'll come back into a child's pose, sinking into those hips. And now that we've done the front of the body and we've done the front of the legs, we're switching over and doing the back. So let's bring ourselves comfortably onto our roller. We're going to just sit on it. You know, I like to do some roller control first before we get moving on it. So make sure you're comfortable sitting on it. If it's too much because maybe you have the bumpy roller and it doesn't feel comfortable, that's when you could put like a towel or a blanket over top of it just to kind of soften the cushion. Same with if you're using a massage ball, you might need to just back off of it every now and then, or you could, as I mentioned, move against the wall and use your control like that. Okay, it looks like most of us are ready to go. So we're going to start with our glutes, taking our hands in back of us. Make sure your fingers are facing either forward or slightly out to the side. Soft elbows, puff chest. We never ever just sit lackadaisy. We're always in control. We're always putting our body into a position intentionally. That's super important. Now, figure 4. I'm going to start with my right ankle coming across. Hopefully this is okay. If you don't want to do figure 4, you don't have to. You can always keep both feet on the floor. All right, now that I've been nice and I've let you just kind of relax on here, we're going to change it up. So now you lean into, which hip do I want to lean into? The exposed hip. Okay, I had to talk to myself there for a second. So if my right leg is lifted, I've got my right knee open, we're going to lean into our right hip. I actually like to come onto one hand at this point, and now we're going to roll over that exposed, or the hip, the butt that's now kind of open. You're going to just roll back and forth over that right side of your bum, right up through the back into the hip. Looks good. And you can always keep both hands down on the ground, just like you can keep both feet down. We'll just do a few more like this. Some of you might be hitting gold. This could be feeling amazing. I definitely have struck gold. And some of you might be thinking, yeah, that's okay. I don't think I need this too much this morning. And with that being said, let's square ourselves off. Find yourself centered. Readjust the roller if you need to. And then we'll do the other side. What side do I need? So left foot, find that figure 4, and then kind of rock into that exposed side. And you can start working through the left side of your bum, right up through the back of that hip. The rolling out does take a lot of control. The positions that you take in order to roll out are definitely very specific, but then there's variety, right? There's modifications, there's options. So like I said, this is where I want you to be, but you can keep both hands, you can keep both feet down. You can be doing this against the wall with a ball if you'd prefer. All right, one more big breath here. Amazing, and we'll come through the middle. Oh, all right, from here, let's sit on the roller, or if you had a bumpy roller or a ball and it's not comfortable, just sit on the ground. Place your legs about hips width distance apart, bend your knees just a little bit. We're going to take a forward fold. Big inhale, lift up. And exhale, reach forward as far as you can, and then just relax your head. Nice hamstring stretch, helping stretch up through the glutes a bit. And slowly roll up. All right, moving into our, I like to say our favorite, our IT band. So we're going to come onto the side of your hip a little bit more. Now, how I like to set up for this one is you lay on your side, right on the kind of the top of the thigh, and then I take my free leg and I bring it across. So this is my power leg. I'm using my bottom leg to stretch. My top leg is my power, and I'll take my hands in front so that they're kind of braced in a plank position. And you can start rocking up your thigh. So if you need to ever move yourself, the IT band is your iliotibial band, which is a fancy way or scientific way of saying your hip to knee. So we're going to try to stretch in through the muscles connecting the front and back of your leg from hip to knee. And if you don't want to do this on your hands, you can do this on your elbow too. And what you'll notice about your IT band is as you keep rolling to the top of the knee, don't go past the knee, you don't need to roll on your joint, all the way to the bottom of your hip, that there might be one part or one section that is a little bit more sensitive. And that can change. So for me today, I'm feeling this a lot more as I get closer to my knee. So as you've done a few nice big rolls, you might want to now kind of fine tune it and stay on the area that's a little bit more sensitive today, so you can give it a bit more attention. And just little strokes, and again, if that fight or flight's kicking in, try to hold it, melt into that sweet spot. So relax a bit and take a couple breaths, and then roll it out a few times, and then maybe do it again. Good, just a couple more big breaths. Very good. And then we'll get set up and we'll do the other side. You can simply turn it around. I'm going to flip it so I can keep looking at you. So what we do is we brace ourselves on the other side. So you start kind of resting on your hip in like a side plank position. That bottom leg is straight. I have the top leg anchored in front. That's my setup. If you need to adjust it slightly, that's okay. Those hands are down, bracing. Always think of bellies in for good core. Otherwise, you won't have very good balance. And then you can start by using that power leg, the one on top, to help push back and forth. And your leg might be long, so you may have to keep adjusting it, right? Right now, I'm focusing mostly on my hip area. Now I'm going to just adjust it so that I can get a bit more into my thigh. Now this leg may be entirely different. You might be feeling it more up through your hip, more down to your knee, or in my case today, I'm actually feeling it right smack dab in the middle. So again, if you find a sweet spot, you're just going to hold it, breathe into it, and then you'll start that rolling again. Maybe the sweet spot changes, or maybe you find another one, or maybe you need to do the same pattern and just hold it, breathe into it, and we'll do this a couple more times. Everyone looks really good. I like how you're changing your position, you're making adjustments. Very good, and we can come off of that. Oh, fantastic. Maybe another child's pose. You can use your roller in your hands if you like. I like that extra little back work that we get from holding the roller in our hands, little scoop of the back. And then maybe just sit into one hip a little bit more favorably. Try to stretch out through those glutes and into the hip. And then switch and sit a little bit more into the other hip. And then we have our final stretch, which is going to be calves. So what I'll ask us to do is flip over, sitting down on your bum. Oh, I'm feeling a lot through my shoulders right now. This is very nice. Calves are going to set up onto your roller. So if you've got a ball, you'll just do one leg at a time, which most of us will end up doing anyways. So the proper setup is, I want your, how do I want to start this? Let's go with your kind of top of your ankles on the roller, and then bring your hands in back. Again, proper position, like a crab dip or a tricep dip. Fingers forward or slightly splayed to the side. Elbows soft, shoulders strong. And then you can start just rocking forward and back. If that's not enough pressure for you today, you could stack one foot on top of the other or one leg on top of the other and do it that way. That might still not be enough pressure, in which case I'm going to ask you to do the full rock. So my bum is lifted and I'm doing a reverse plank. Now I'm definitely feeling that more. So now I know I need to lift my bum up, but I think I can go one step further. So I'm going to take one foot on top of the other, lift the hips up and roll. Now I'm going to be honest, that's too much for me. So I need to go somewhere in the middle. I'll take that top leg, place the foot on the floor, and then rock. So now my bum's lifted, but I have just one leg on the roller, and that's perfect for me today. That's the amount of pressure. And you could do this from your elbow. If you wanted to do this from your elbow, I just find it a little bit awkward, but you could absolutely do that. So see what I mean about, yes, the setup is very specific, but the options are essentially endless to modify. So it's really getting into what you need it to be today. And I'm actually going to switch just a little bit, try to get all the way up through the calf. And I'll switch to my other side. So amazing posture, and then roll. So for all of us doing more cardio, like on a treadmill or a bike this week, since we've been home, maybe we've been doing those indoor cardio sessions more, you could be feeling this a lot more than usual, right? This could be an area that you've not needed before, but now suddenly you need. It's good to be aware of that and to understand that as we introduce new forms of exercise into our routine, or maybe some exercise we just haven't done in a while, that you'll need to deal with that in your recovery differently too, right? All right, now from here, that felt amazing. Let's put both feet back up onto the roller. Sit up as tall as you can. Again, you can have your knees slightly bent. Big inhale, lift up, and exhale, reach forward. Little hamstring stretch, calf stretch. And then how we're going to finish our class today is we're going to lay back on the roller for a little back stretch and just calm breathing. So with the roller, just like anytime we get a massage, a lot of acid from the muscles is being released because we're flushing it out, we're massaging it out. So I want us just to take some time, roll over that lovely, oh my goodness, that feels amazing. Roll over the roller, adjust it to where you need it. I think I need it in my lower back a bit more first. And I want you just to take some really amazing deep breaths. And as I mentioned, you may need to change where this is. I'm going to start with it on my lower back. And then kind of as we work through this, I'll move it up to my upper back. And you could lay with your arms wherever. Try playing with it, whether they're up above the head more into a streamlined position, sometimes out in cactus. Other times people like to just hold their head in their hands, kind of like a crunch. And we're just taking those slow deep breaths as we really open up through the back and allow it to change places. Let's take 3 more big breaths here. Oh, amazing. Now slowly come all the way up, whether you need to roll off and roll over to your side or roll all the way up. And we'll just kind of stretch our way out of that. And then we'll say our very final goodbye together. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. So if you're able to just sit up nice and tall for me, we'll say our very last goodbye. Thank you so much. Inhale, hands all the way up above head to prayer. Exhaling down through heart center, and namaste.